The clink of silverware on porcelain was the only sound at the dinner table, until my mother's voice sliced through it like a blade. "This trip isn't for someone like you, Emily," she said, without even looking at me. Her tone was calm, but the words carried that cold sting she'd perfected over the years. "Just stay home. You wouldn't fit in." Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. A forkful of pasta hung mid-air in my hand. What's that supposed to mean? My voice was steady, but my stomach twisted. Across the table, my brother Tyler leaned back in his chair, smirking. "She means you'd slow us down. This is an exclusive resort, Em, not exactly your scene." My sister Haley giggled, twirling her wine glass. "Besides, you'd need a whole new wardrobe just to blend in. Can you even afford that?" My breath caught. That was the thing about my family. They didn't throw punches. They carved you open with little cuts, subtle enough to pass as teasing, but deep enough to bleed. Dad chuckled as if they were all in on some inside joke. "It's just a trip, Emily. Don't make it a big deal." The heat in my cheeks was building. I glanced at the itinerary lying in the middle of the table. 5 first-class tickets to the Bahamas. My siblings' names printed neatly in bold. Mine wasn't there. "They already booked everything," Haley added, leaning forward like she was sharing a juicy secret. "Tyler even got the ocean view suite." "Guess you'll have the house to yourself," Tyler said, grinning like he'd just done me a favor. I set my fork down, slow and deliberate. "Right," I said, my voice calm, too calm. "Enjoy your little getaway," Haley smirked. "Oh, we will." They laughed, the kind of laugh that makes you feel like the punchline. But they didn't notice my hand under the table, gripping my phone. My pulse was steady now, because while they were busy dismissing me, they had no idea I'd been keeping a secret, one that was about to flip their perfect little trip upside down. The next morning, before the sun had even stretched across the horizon, I was already awake. My phone buzzed with a single text. "All set. The jet will be at your driveway in an hour." I looked at the stack of glossy airline tickets sitting on my kitchen counter, the ones I'd borrowed after dinner when Tyler left his jacket on the chair and his pocket hung open. 5 tickets, first class, now in my hand. Outside, the low hum of engines made my heart pound. I stepped to the window, and there it was, sleek, white, and impossible to ignore. My husband Adam's private jet, parked on the street like it owned the neighborhood. The crew stood at the base of the steps, sunglasses on, waiting for me. I slipped the tickets into my bag, grabbed my sunglasses, and walked to the door. Today the tables were turning, and my family had no idea their perfect trip had just been canceled. The low hum of the jet's engines was already in the air when I stepped out of my front door. The morning sun glinted off its polished white body, parked just beyond the curb like it had every right to be there. 2 uniformed attendants stood at the base of the stairs, their posture crisp, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. I clutched the ticket sleeve in my bag, feeling the edges press against my palm. Down the street, my family was loading suitcases into an Uber. Haley was posing in the driveway, Tyler filming her like she was about to star in a luxury travel ad. My parents stood off to the side, chatting with the driver. When they saw me walking toward them, all activity slowed. Haley tilted her head, spotting the jet behind me. "What's that doing here?" she asked, her voice too light, too curious. "Our ride," I said calmly. Mom scoffed. "Don't tell me Adam sent that for you." "He did," I replied, adjusting my sunglasses. "We have somewhere to be." Tyler smirked. "You're seriously trying to compete with us? That's cute." Without another word, I reached into my bag and pulled out the ticket sleeve. Their eyes locked on it instantly. Passenger 1, Karen Miller. Passenger 2, David Miller. Passenger 3, Tyler Miller. Passenger 4, Haley Miller. I let the pause hang. And passenger 5, some golf buddy. No Emily. Mom's smile faltered. "Where did you get those?" "You left them where I could see them," I said. "I figured I'd hold on to them for safekeeping." Dad's face tightened. "Emily?" "No," I cut in, my voice steady. "Last night you made it clear this trip wasn't for someone like me, so I made other plans." Haley laughed. "Other plans? What, Going to the same place? Exactly, I said. But I'll be staying somewhere. You can't. The jet's engines rumbled a little louder, like it was impatient. My family just stared, half shocked, half scrambling to process that the girl they dismissed at dinner now had the upper hand. Enjoy your trip, I added, slipping the tickets back into my bag. I know I will. And without waiting for another word, I turned and walked toward the jet, the sound of their disbelief chasing me all the way to the stairs. The sunlight hit the jet's metallic body like it had been polished just for this moment. I placed my foot on the first step, the faint vibration from the engines thrumming through the metal under my shoe. Every instinct told me to keep walking forward, but something made me pause halfway up. I glanced over my shoulder. My family was still standing there in the driveway. Haley's mouth was hanging open. Tyler was holding his phone halfway up as if debating whether to record or pretend this wasn't happening. Mom's arms were crossed, but the stiffness in her jaw gave her away. Dad's hand was clenched on the handle of his suitcase. I let them watch me. I wanted them to. The attendant at the top of the stairs smiled politely. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Cole. Inside, the cabin was bright and immaculate. Cream leather seats, walnut accents, and a faint citrus scent in the air. A crystal carafe of orange juice sat on the table beside a plate of fresh berries. Adam was seated toward the back, phone in hand, dressed in a tailored navy jacket that looked effortless on him. He stood when he saw me, setting the phone aside. Right on time, he said. I smiled faintly. I made sure of it. He studied my face for a beat. You're not shaking. That's good. I'm not here to shake, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. I'm here to prove a point. He nodded once, understanding exactly what I meant without me having to explain. So, he said, glancing toward the window, they saw the jet? Oh, they saw it, I replied, buckling my seatbelt. And the tickets. They know exactly where they stand. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Good morning. We'll be departing in 5 minutes. Estimated flight time to Exuma is just over 3 hours. Please prepare for takeoff. As the engines deepened to a steady roar, I looked out the oval window. The Uber had started to pull away from my parents' driveway, my family's faces still turned toward the jet. Even from here, I could imagine the conversation. Haley's high-pitched disbelief, Tyler's muttering, Mom's clipped accusations, Dad's attempt to play it cool while quietly seething. For years, I'd been the quiet one in the family, the one they didn't invite, didn't consult, didn't take seriously, and yet here I was, heading to the same island. On my own terms. The jet began to roll forward. Adam reached across the aisle and placed his hand over mine, grounding me. You know, he said, this isn't just about the trip. This is about you finally not letting them define you. I know, I said softly, feeling the truth of it settle inside me. And as the nose of the jet lifted from the runway, leaving the street, the houses, and their laughter behind, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control. 3 hours later, the turquoise waters of Exuma glittered beneath us like shattered glass catching the sun. The jet's shadow skimmed the coastline before we touched down on the small private runway. The moment the cabin door opened, the warm, salty breeze swept in, carrying that heady mix of sea air and sun-warmed sand. Waiting at the bottom of the steps was a line of resort staff in crisp white uniforms, each wearing a name badge and a smile that looked like it belonged in a luxury travel magazine. A black SUV idled behind them, the kind with tinted windows, so deep they looked like obsidian. Welcome to Exuma, Mrs. Cole, the resort manager said, stepping forward with an iPad in hand. We have your entire ocean view wing ready, along with the cabanas you requested. Your private dinner on the beach will be set up for sunset. Adam glanced at me with a faint smirk. You really went all in, didn't you? I shrugged, trying to hide the satisfaction curling in my chest. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. Inside the SUV, the leather seats were cool against my skin, the air conditioning sharp after the Caribbean heat. The road wound past swaying palms and bursts of hibiscus flowers until the gates of the resort came into view, towering iron flanked by security in spotless uniforms. The car slowed, and as we pulled in, I caught sight of something that made my pulse skip. Another black SUV parked just outside the entrance, luggage on the curb, and my family standing there in the heat, talking to a visibly apologetic staff member. I could see Haley gesturing wildly, her oversized sunglasses pushed up on her head, her free hand planted on her hip. Tyler was pacing, phone pressed to his ear. Mom's lips were tight, speaking low to Dad, who looked like he was ready to argue with anyone in a 5-foot radius. The manager beside me followed my gaze and gave a polite, knowing smile. They tried to check in for the ocean view suites this morning, he said. We explained the wing was reserved exclusively for your event. We've offered them garden view rooms instead. I bit back a laugh. And? They declined. Said they'd wait for the mistake to be fixed. When the SUV rolled past them, Haley's head snapped toward me. Her expression froze somewhere between disbelief and fury. Tyler's jaw dropped. Mom's eyes narrowed into thin, sharp lines. Dad took a single step forward, as if he might block the car, but the driver eased us smoothly through the gates. The resort opened up before us, white stucco buildings draped in bougainvillea, infinity pools spilling into views of the ocean, staff carrying trays of tropical drinks to guests lounging under wide umbrellas. It was quiet, serene, exclusive. When we reached the private wing, a butler stepped forward to open my door. Welcome home for the week, Mrs. Cole. Home for the week. I like the sound of that. As we walked toward the largest suite, I could still feel their eyes on my back from outside those gates. They had come to this island expecting to shut me out. Instead, they were the ones on the other side of the line, waiting, watching, and realizing that no amount of laughter at my expense could change where I stood now. And I wasn't done yet. The first 2 days at the resort felt like living in a different universe. Morning swims in the infinity pool with no one else around. Breakfast on my balcony overlooking the water, the sound of waves breaking against the shore as my background. Music staff who knew my name before I even introduced myself. Adam spent his mornings on conference calls for his company, leaving me the space to soak it all in. And I did, deliberately, unapologetically. But I knew my family was still here. Somewhere beyond the manicured hedges and security gates, they were simmering. I'd heard enough from the resort manager to know they'd managed to book rooms at a less expensive hotel down the road. They'd still been trying to talk their way into their rightful suites. The opportunity for a final word wasn't something I planned. It came to me. On the third evening, the resort hosted a beachfront welcome dinner for my Literacy Foundation's donors and volunteers. Long white tables draped in linen stood under strings of glowing lights. The smell of grilled seafood and fresh herbs mingled with the warm ocean breeze. As I stepped onto the sand in a flowing deep blue dress, I spotted them immediately, just beyond the rope that marked the private section of the beach. Mom in a stiff cream outfit that didn't suit the island heat. Dad with his arms crossed, scanning the setup. Haley in a sundress that was clearly meant for Instagram, phone in hand. Tyler standing just behind them, smirking like he was above the whole thing. They weren't here to crash the dinner. They were here to make a point. But so was I. I walked straight toward the rope, every eye at my table following me. Evening, I said, stopping just in front of them. Mom's mouth tightened. So, this is your little event? I tilted my head. Not so little, actually. We've raised enough to open 2 new reading centers in under 24 hours. Dad gave a sarcastic huff. That's nice. So, are you done playing games now? You've made your point. No, I said, smiling faintly. Not yet. Haley crossed her arms. You seriously think humiliating us like this makes you the bigger person? I'm not humiliating you, I replied. I'm just showing you what I've been doing while you were busy telling me I don't fit in. I gestured toward the long tables, the people laughing and chatting, the resort staff moving effortlessly between them. You wanted me to stay home because you thought this trip was too good for me. But the truth is, this trip was never about you at all. Mom's voice dropped to that low, dangerous register she used when she was angry, but wanted to look composed. We're still family, Emily. Family? I let the word hang for a beat. Family doesn't measure your worth by the clothes you wear or the invitations you get. Family doesn't laugh at you for not being good enough. And family definitely doesn't tell you to stay behind like a stray dog while they go make memories without you. Dad's jaw tightened. You're overreacting. No, I said, my voice steady but sharp. I'm remembering. The sound of clinking glasses drifted, over from the tables, followed by a burst of applause from my guests. The manager approached, holding a small microphone. Mrs. Cole, we're ready for your speech. I took the mic, but before I turned to my audience, I looked back at them one last time. You could have been here tonight, I said, not just as guests, but as people who supported me. But you made your choice, and I made mine. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked to the center of the tables, the sand warm under my heels, and faced my guests. Behind me, I could still feel my family watching. "Good evening," I began, my voice carrying just enough to reach them too. When I started this foundation, a lot of people didn't believe in me. They thought I didn't belong in places like this. But what they didn't understand is that belonging isn't something people give you. It's something you claim for yourself. The guests clapped, some even standing. My eyes swept over the tables, past the twinkling lights, and toward the ocean. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was proving anything to them. I wasn't playing on their terms. I was just living mine, on my own ground, in my own voice. The sun dipped lower, casting the sky in shades of gold and rose. The waves kept rolling in, steady and endless. And somewhere beyond the rope, my family stood silent, not laughing, not dismissing, just silent, exactly the way I wanted it.